WLKY News at 6 starts right now.
With gas prices surging, Governor Beshear says he'll give us a little relief at the pump.
Today, Beshear unveiled a series of steps to lower cost at a time when drivers in Louisville are paying an average of $4.35 a gallon.
He is stopping the gas tax from increasing on July 1st, but he's also taking more immediate action, cutting that tax by 10 cents a gallon.
Edward Smith breaks down the governor's actions and explains how much Kentuckians could save. Edward.
Governor Andy Beshear announced he's taking 5 actions to bring down the cost of both regular and diesel fuel. He says the moves could save drivers about 30 cents per gallon at the pump.
Today, I'm signing an executive order declaring a state of emergency related to gas prices.
Governor Andy Beshear announcing his first step, signing an emergency order preventing the current wholesale gas tax from increasing this July from 26.4 cents per gallon to 27.
By freezing the gas tax to its current rate, we can save Kentuckians $1.7 million each month combined. But freezing the gas tax isn't enough.
Beshear is also signing an executive order declaring a state of emergency that will reduce the gas tax by 10 cents per gallon. Beshear says he's activating the state price gouging statute to prevent gas stations or wholesalers from keeping that 10 cents. That order is set to take effect next week on May 11th, pending approval from Attorney General Russell Coleman.
My hope is the AG sees it the same way that I do, that saving families 10 cents a gallon at the pump right now is the right thing to do, that it benefits all Kentuckians.
Beshear is also freezing the motor vehicle assessment rate, stopping it from increasing at the start of next year. And he's calling on Congress to act in ways that he can't by urging them to suspend an 18.4 cents per gallon federal gas tax until the end of the year.
These leaders have a chance to help our people when they desperately need relief. I pray they can put the political games they've been playing to the side and take a long overdue step to help American families.
In Frankfort, Edward Smith, WLKY News.
And shortly after the governor's announcement, Attorney General Russell Coleman said that he would sign the executive order, but in a statement, he criticized Beshear for vetoing, quote, almost every tax cut that's come to his desk, while accusing the governor of, quote, playing politics and running for president. Indiana previously took steps to temporarily lower gas prices there. Last month, Governor Mike Braun declared an energy emergency, suspending the gas use tax. That 30-day suspension of the 7% tax is set to end on Friday. The governor's office has not indicated whether he'll extend it.
The polls just closed in southern Indiana. Tonight's results should offer an early indication on what matters most to Hoosier voters. Some high-profile local contests helped drive turnout, while many voters said everyday costs and quality of life were top of mind.
I'm feeling the impact of health care, feeling the impact of support like our children, especially the women and children, the babies being fed, food insecurity, our neighbors.
Well, being a senior citizen, I am very much aware of what's legislation that deals with senior citizens' lives and finances and so forth. I am blessed, but not everybody is.
Norman Seawright is monitoring some of those local races, including Clark County Sheriff. He's live at one of the polling sites in Charlestown. Norman?
Vicki, yeah, we're at 4-H Fairgrounds. As you mentioned, the polls just closed, and a lot of those issues that drove voters out to the polls today, a lot of it has to do, of course, the sheriff and other things like cost of living. And officials told me yesterday that because of those issues, they were expecting relatively high turnout, and they did see a decent number of early and absentee voters. As of around 4 p.m., Clark County voters cast around 9,700 total ballots, just over 10% of the county's registered voters. That may sound like a low number, but these are party voters. Clark County Clerk Ryan Lynch says there's more interest in this midterm primary than the last one.
There's a lot of passion, and it seems, especially in Clarksville or in Clark County, there's a lot of passion behind the elections, and it just seems to be getting stronger and stronger, which people should be passionate about their communities. So I support the passion.
I think the sheriff election is really the main driver for people. So with both parties having competition, and competition is good, but just being able to, with everything that has happened in the news, just increased awareness and the opportunity to say, hey, this is what we want to see looking ahead to the fall.
I checked in with Floyd County as well. As of around 4 p.m., nearly 4,100 voters had shown up to vote, along with 3,700 early and absentee voters. And the clerk says that they are happy with that number so far. We'll keep an eye on these races tonight, and we'll talk more about that later on this evening. Live in Clark County, Norman Seawright, WLKY News.
All right, thank you, Norman. Now be sure to stay with WLKY for results of the primary races of interest to your family. We'll be updating them throughout the night on WLKY.com and our free WLKY app.
With Kentucky's primary 2 weeks away, one of the leading contenders in the U.S. Senate race is preparing to crisscross the Commonwealth. Today, Daniel Cameron announced a 34-stop tour starting Friday in Paducah. This comes after President Trump endorsed Andy Barr in the Republican primary, and Nate Morris dropped out of the race and backed Barr as well. Cameron says that he's focused on meeting voters and showing his campaign is answering to Kentuckians, not political insiders.
It's, the swamp being the swamp. And what I'm focused on is garnering as much support since that decision has been made for people to come to this camp, because they know authenticity means something. And they know that if I say something, I'm going to stand firm by those things.
Cameron's tour will also include stops in Louisville, Crestwood, Shepherdsville, Shelbyville, and Bardstown. Barr's campaign director issued a statement to WLKY today saying, in part, no one in their right mind believes President Trump would endorse someone who supports amnesty, so Daniel's attack is a laughable lie from a losing politician, end quote. There are 7 candidates running in the Democratic primary for the Senate seat. The most recent polling shows Charles Booker and Amy McGrath well ahead of the others, including Pamela Stevenson and Dale Romans. Today is the last day to go online and request an absentee ballot for the Kentucky primary. And if you plan to vote early, here are some important dates to keep in mind. There are 6 days of in-person excused absentee voting, May 6th to the 8th and May 11th through the 13th. There are 3 days of no excuse early voting, which runs from May 14th through the 16th. In Louisville, early voting takes place at the Jefferson County Election Center on East Liberty Street.